And I'm going to make us big, Sandy. We're going to get real big.
Yeah, and I told my sisters I'd give them reminders, so I guess I better do that real quick.
Good. And Leslie, good to see you. I hope your trip was wonderful.
Oh, it was fabulous.
Oh,
Thank you.
yay. That's so cool. So
Yeah.
I leave Sunday for Iceland.
Oh, wow.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Oh,
wow.
it'll be
That'll be
so fun.
yeah, that'll be really exciting. 3 days in Copenhagen first and then 12 days in Iceland. So I'm looking forward to that. But the weather looks really cold.
Oh,
It's their summer, so I thought it would be like 60s. This whole week it's been 52 and raining. So I thought,
that's what it was in Alaska.
oh, it was. Oh, I'm so sorry because I was so lucky in Alaska. It was 70s and sunny every day, both times I was there. So
Uh,
I'm sorry you didn't hit that weather.
I
And
always say there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing.
yeah, did you have the right clothing?
I did, yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, so we just put on our rain suits and went out and hiked in the rain and kayaked in the rain and
Good for you. Yay, you're such
fun.
an adventurer. So
Good.
I'm excited about what we're talking about tonight for a couple reasons. Number one, that I get to partner with Sandy again. Every time I partner with her on any kind of call, honestly, you guys, I learn so much. And she's so just generous with her. I don't want to step on your toes and I want this to be equal. And I'm thinking, she doesn't realize how much she knows and how really what a great leader she is. So, yay, Sandy, I'm so glad I'm doing this with you. And with what they're offering right now for brand new distributors to get this gift card is okay. So let's talk about how do we attract and get partners and keep them moving along? What are some of the key pieces to this whole operation of attraction and then really affirming people enough that they want to stay and partner with you? And then they want to be active partners, right? And that's, of course, what we would all love. And so when Sandy and I were talking, was some things came up that I think are really important. And she really put a great outline together. And where she started, and it got me really thinking is, it all starts with who do you want in your business? Like, what's your vision of who you want? And then how are you attracting them? So there's different ways that we do that. But I want to start just a little bit with, for example, social media. So when you're thinking social media, you're thinking, who do you want to attract? Is it mothers? Is it, you know, women that have college kids? Is it college women that have college or families that have kids in college? Or is it college kids? Like, who are you attracting and what are you putting out there to make that happen? So, Sandy, I'm going to turn this a little bit over to you to talk a little bit about social media and how you're thinking and what you're doing to start having people notice you. That hopefully those are some people that will be able to convert or pivot into active distributors, partners.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much. And I think, and this goes whether you're live around people or if you're in social media around people, right? Being clear in who we are and who we want to attract. And it's interesting because most likely who you want to attract is going to be you a few years ago. You
Yeah.
know, and if you think back to what attracted you, where were you at that time? And what were you juggling? And in little snippets of time, you were able to build this incredible business, right? And a mission. And so thinking of that person, that woman.
I,
And
I love that. That's such a great question is who were you when you saw this and became attracted? And what was it that finally grabbed you? That is such an important question. I wonder if any of you have thought about it. What attracted me? What was I doing at the time? What did my life look like? So, Sandy, what was your life like when you got attracted to this? Although you really weren't attracted. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I had this circus of a life that I absolutely loved most of. I was raising two boys. I was a mom. I was a youth pastor at our church, middle school youth pastor, no less. And I was caretaker of a grandma. And so I was looking for something so that I'd have energy to do all that, because I loved every bit of that, but I had no energy. I had autoimmune issues. I had a horrible diet growing up. I had a son who had an ear infection for a solid year. So we really were in some trouble. And it was my friend, many of you know her, Lenora, who was very patient and shared with me this way that through these plant powders that we could get healthier. And seriously, all the research I'd been doing it and a holistic chiropractor I'd taken my son to, it just all lined up. So while I was waiting for my Juice Plus to arrive, I was sharing with people because it all just made so much sense. However, when my friend Lenora talked to me about the business, I was like, oh no, hold on. And I only signed my dealer app, and to tell you the truth, I signed it when she was out of town under one of her team members because I didn't want to be pressured. But that chiropractor wanted to start maybe selling it. And I thought, this is silly. I could pay for my family's Juice Plus. So that's the only reason that I signed up.
So I'm curious, you really weren't interested in the business. You loved the product. That was established between you and Lenora. It made sense. Were you already taking Juice Plus for a while when you signed up, or was it around the same time as you
Yes,
started?
I started in February and didn't sign up until July. And
Okay.
then I really didn't do anything until October.
So it took you
when
4 months to sign up and another several months to actually do anything.
And
So
I'm just so grateful that Lenora had patience with me. And she did another really smart thing. She kept that relationship going. She kept sending me information. She kept inviting me to live events. And I got to hear Nikki's husband, Chris. And I got to hear his sponsor, Pint Piwaniski. And I'm sorry Debbie's not on the phone because I heard Debbie. And it was Debbie that gave me this idea that maybe I could do this business, because she was quieter than me and she was successful. So maybe I could do this.
but you signed up. Did you sign up because you wanted her to leave you alone? Did you sign up because you could get your product at a discount? What made you actually sign up? What was the final turning point?
When that chiropractor wanted to buy it and possibly sell it, I thought, this is silly. I could at least pay for my family's Juice Plus. That was the only thing I wanted to do.
And how did he hear? He heard about it from you.
Yes.
And
Because
you,
my son was sick and I was taking him to her. When she saw how well he got and she saw my energy, because she knew I wasn't feeling great, she wanted to buy it for herself and possibly share it.
so, and the reason I'm really asking about that is that Sandy loved the product. Sandy was seeing people and they saw the difference in her and clearly saw the difference in your son getting better. So it's like you were really the example of what Juice Plus could do. So even though you weren't selling it, you were being the Juice Plus model. You were modeling what happens when you're on Juice Plus. I just want you to
Right.
put that in your mind because I think that's really important.
Right.
Okay.
And little bit by little bit, I fell in love with the company. Lenora kept inviting me to things, and my first conference that I went to, it wasn't the one in October, but the next one, I was just amazed at the heart of everyone. That it was about, the only hype was about the research, what it could do for the body, and it was also genuine and authentic. And that wasn't my experience with network marketing before Juice Plus.
So the other thing that I'm hearing you say, and it's what you and I talked about so much, is that Lenora really affirmed you, really saw who you were, really continued to feed you information in a way that allowed you to accidentally really share Juice Plus. You weren't really doing it, but you were being it. But a lot of that came from the way Lenora affirmed you and saw you and heard what you wanted and didn't say you have to get right out there and sell and didn't force a manual on you and didn't, right? Is that pretty accurate?
And there were a couple of times that I said to her and to myself, I think I should wait till my kids are older. I've got so much on my plate. I just don't think I should be doing this seriously right now. And what I loved about Lenora is she never tried to drag me. She just said, that's okay. I love what you are doing. When I first started and wanted to do a little bit of a business, we sat down and did it. So Nikki is exactly right. The first part, she affirmed me. And because there's this buyer's remorse that people get sometimes, and I had it, right? And she just kept affirming me. And then when I was ready to sit down and do this, we had a meeting, and she asked me what I wanted the Juice Plus business to do for me, and then asked how much time I was going to be able to give to it. And I said maybe 5 hours a week. And she said, that's great. Could we break that up into 1 hour a day so that you're touching your business every day?
So what I feel like Lenora did for you is she really fanned the flame for you for number one, what was possible. You must have been hearing little bits and pieces of how to do the business without telling you you had to do the business. I mean, all along, she'd created a foundation of what this business could look like for you. Is that?
It is so true.
Yeah.
And back to us attracting people, that's what we get to do. We get to, on social media, just little snippets of what we're up to and how we're doing it without even saying Juice Plus. We get to attract people by, like Nikki said, being. This is what we do. And we can already start little bits of training of how we do our business, our mission, by how we show up and when we're having conversations.
Okay. So another thing that we talked about is during this process of, let's say that let's assume for a moment that you've attracted somebody enough and they're on Juice Plus. The business may or may not have come up yet, but it's not a focus. We're in that process of really helping that person fall in love with Juice Plus, because it's so much easier to want to share something that you love than something that you just think is okay, right? So we really want to help them fall in love with Juice Plus. So how do you handle, maybe we talked about this, objections before they actually come up. So let's say you are talking to a really busy mom, you know a little bit about them. And I know that some people teach, I know that you're really busy, but if I could show you a way, or I know that you've got a lot on your plate, and does this make sense to you or something? But we talked about doing it slightly differently than that, Sandy. How would you do that pivot with somebody to even bring up the business and timing? How do you know when the timing is right to really talk about the business?
Right, that's a good one. And I think you don't have to establish like a close girlfriend relationship, but just knowing, they trust you and you've asked them some questions. You found out maybe what it is that they would, that is near and dear to them, what they're passionate about. And so then maybe a pivot could be something like, I don't know, but I just can't get it out of my head. And my intuition tells me it would just be so fun for us to do something together. And then I would pick something out like, you are such a good mom, and you make sure that your kids are not only eating healthy, but living healthy. And who have you shared that with? Who have you ever thought about the possibility of leading more people into healthy living? Is that something that you'd be open to?
And I love that idea of saying, when you know that somebody, this is a good example, if you know that they're already being healthy and they're doing all the right thing for their kids, and saying, I really admire you, the way that you've raised your kids and that your family eats healthy. If you were to share, does it excite you to share with other moms the possibility of their kids being healthy? Does that give you any pause? Does it get you excited? Do you have any passion to share your acknowledge, because you really know so much about health already? Now, a lot of people are saying, yeah, that I never did think about that I could actually impact people other than my family. So that can be really exciting for somebody. But what if somebody says, gosh, no, and if they did say that, that could be really exciting. I would then again always tell me more. That sounds like that could be fun, or that sounds exciting. Then get them to talk about that. Why? And pretend you're one of those people, Sandy, you do so well with your family. You've changed your son's ear infection. You've got more energy. Why? Tell me more about why you might have passion to help other people. What's there for you there?
It's just hard for me to hear about so many kids dependent on drugs. And there's always side effects to drugs, and not that that's not needed sometimes, but if there's another way, and I found that for my kids, I would love to share that with people so that they, know that there's a better, more exciting way than their kids continuing to be sick.
Yeah. And here's the thing. This is the important part of you asking the question and letting them name why they might want to impact people. Is that now this is their truth. They've told you absolutely why this could be good for them, rather than you saying, I think this could be good for you because people love to be in service and people love to help other people. Wouldn't you like to help other people? They're going to say yes, but they haven't really said what's in it for them. They haven't really talked about their own personal feelings, really an important part of the conversation. So what happens when you are in a conversation and you kind of bring up, have you thought about impacting others or whatever? And they say something like, yeah, I've kind of thought about it, but I really don't have time. Where do you go from there? And I have some ideas. I don't know, Sandy, if you have any ideas. I do. I have a couple.
Well, I'd love to hear if anyone has had that objection and what you've said.
Yeah,
Or
too.
what comes to your mind when Nikki says this.
They say I don't really think I have the time. And I say, gosh, tell me, a little bit more about that. What does that look like for you? Anybody want to undo yourself? It's a really good opportunity, even to get it wrong.
I would ask them, what does your day look like? Like you said, Nikki, what does your day look like? I'm curious. Is there anything that you do in your day that you particularly don't like, maybe?
Well, I really like tell me what your day looks like, because now they've said they don't have time and you clearly are showing interest in what their life looks like. Tell me a little bit more about your day. And they tell you what their day looks like. And you can then ask some things. Are those, I like where you were going with this, Heidi. What are those things that you're doing the day that you love? You want to keep it kind of positive. What and why? And they say, well, what I really like about my day is, when I drop the kids off, after I drop the kids off, I get to go home and I have a few minutes myself and I really get myself organized. I love to organize. I get myself organized for the day and I kind of plan, great, this is a person who loves to organize. If you ask what they love during the day, it may be things that match what we do. So that's also important. And the other thing I would do besides just asking them about their day, and then that could be a further conversation, but I might ask somebody something like, if you did have more time during your day, does the idea of helping others, is that something that gets you excited at all? Or is the idea of helping others get healthy? Or does the idea of creating something of your own, a business, even though I know you don't have time right now, but is there something in the back of your head that you think someday, it's a great question, someday what would you like to do? The someday question. And
Nikki, don't you think it's good too to ask what don't you like about
yes,
your day? Because if you can get to their pain point, and then maybe we have a solution for their pain. Oh, I'm sorry, Heidi, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, that's okay. I was just going to say another question could be, what if you did have more time in your day, what would you see yourself doing with that time?
yeah.
Because then I remember that question being asked for me in the beginning, and it was like, oh, the possibility of doing this, and this, and this, and then creating that income to perhaps have that available time in the future, like also kind of gets people thinking, oh, I never even thought that could be a possibility. So
I think that's a really good point, Heidi, is I think people with whatever they're doing, they're so tied into how their life is, they can't figure out, even if they're not happy, how to make changes enough to get out. So finding their pain point is really important. And that was one of the first things that you said, Heidi. And then, what I went on to say is, well, if you did have time. So those are some things that I think would be really great. But it's having conversation, and it's really establishing what it is do they want in their life. That's really where we're going with this, right? So, and then,
I would say also when you talked about what, like Sandy brought up, what don't you like about your life? Because sometimes people might say, I hate that my kids are in daycare, or I hate, that I work so many long hours. And I think that's a good way to kind of set up, like, what if you could start working this additional income so that, your kids didn't have to be in daycare 5 days a week, and maybe you could cut back on one job to spend more time with your children.
and Leslie, a point to that again, when Heidi did say, well, what don't you like? If whatever they answer, ask them to tell you more about that, because you really want to get right down to the pain of it. Somebody might just say, I don't like my day because it's so busy. Well, tell me what the busy looks like. I feel like I'm a chauffeur. I'm going from here to there, and I never get to speak to any adults because I'm running with my kids. Would spending some time with adults make a difference for you? Would that give you some pleasure in your life? So picking out, listening for the hints of what our business allows. Our business creates community. So when somebody says, as a mother, I feel alone all day, I'm rushing here and there with my kids, I don't speak to my friends, I hardly have time to have any adult time, and I don't know what to do about it. So asking more questions is really key. So how do you know then when it's the timing is right to actually offer a little bit about the business? And Sandy, can you talk a little bit about timing? Like some people, like you said at the beginning of the conversation, you don't need to be a best friend to offer the business. You can do it pretty quickly up front. You don't have to wait for 500 conversations.
Right, right. And you don't have to get a yes sign on the dotted line, or you don't have to know that they're going to say yes. So just asking them. And we talked about that pivot. Like, yeah, I just think it would be, I choose you, right? I think it would be so fun to work together. I have no idea if this would be something that would interest you. And you've already found out that maybe they would like to share with more people, get more people healthier, right? Have a inspire healthy living. So just ask would you be open if I sent you a video, or if we did a 3-way call with my mentor, would you be open to that? Would that interest you? And a lot of times they will say yes.
So let's just say they've said yes. And I know, and so do you, because you talked about it earlier with me, is that people say yes to signing up and then they don't do anything. Anybody ever experience that? I know we all have, right? It's absolutely. And it may have to do with buyer's remorse. So how do we stop buyer's remorse? And I mean buying in as a partner. Now, I'm not talking about the product now. How do we catch buyer's remorse before it happens? Sandy, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. I think it's super important that we affirm them, that we really stay in close proximity to them. And I don't mean like physically, but that we're sending voice messages, just that we're affirming what they did, sharing our story with them, just enough to keep that connection going. And if you can have voice to voice or Zoom conversations, the quicker you get them connected with your upline, with your mentor, I think is super important, right? And then, just I don't like to overwhelm them with, well, here's Voxer, here's this, here's that. But in the first 72 hours, staying really close to them. Sometimes I had this happen recently. They're getting on Juice Plus at the same time they're signing up. So we want to make sure that they've got their Juice Plus order, that it's on its way, and how that's going. And then, and validating their decision, and then kind of having, one of the things I like to do is have our team, make sure they know what our team theme is and our mantra. So the HEAT team, we all know what that stands for, right? So that they know we have a community. They're part of something bigger. Make sure they're part of Live Healthy, Be Happy. And our HEAT team, or our Facebook and our Voxer. But I, not to overwhelm, just so that they feel really connected. And then set up a conversation when the time's right to have that conversation with them about what they would like their Juice Plus business to look like. They've gotten one foot in the door. We've affirmed them. And again, when we have that first conversation, really affirming that they're set part of something big, and affirm that decision that they made.
And I think Voxer at the very beginning really can be used effectively for you to communicate with them and for them to get Voxer in a very short, like they don't all of a sudden get added to every chat. They're just with you.
Right.
They get used to using Voxer, and that you ask a few people to share their 1 minute or 2 minute stories with them, and you pass them on to them. So they're coming from you, and they say, oh my gosh, my friend just told me this amazing story. I want you to hear it. It's 2 minutes long. I'm going to send it to you. And then you send it on Voxer. So what they get from Voxer is they start to feel connected to Voxer because they're hearing beautiful stories. They're getting the emotional piece that Voxer has for them. I think that's something that we really miss out on. We start them on a chat, then they hear a bunch of whatever. But if you could keep it really contained and you would pass just 1 or 2 messages on and testimonies from other people, I think that's really the ticket.
That's a great, yes, that is awesome.
And I know I haven't done that in the past. I've signed them right up and I put them on the broadcast Voxer chat. But I think in the future, what I'd rather do is have them just be with me. And again, if it was one person on my team that invited them, maybe it's just the 2 or 3 of us, that's it. And you're passing on messages and just saying, this comes from another chat, I thought you'd enjoy it. So they're really feeling you taking care of them. Just a thought.
Yeah, I definitely love that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would say with a new team member, don't put them on a bunch of different Voxer chats because that gets overwhelming.
Right.
That
That's what Nikki's saying.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Yeah, put you in the shutdown.
Yeah. And Randy.
I have a question. So at what point would you bring them from that to a team Voxer chat? That's my question.
And that's all about timing. And I think you'll know when it happens. For example, let's say you pass on, maybe it's a day, 2, 3 days, 4 days, I don't know how long, but you've passed on a couple of informational chats from other groups, and you say, this is from our team chat, just wanted you to hear it. And then you do it again another time. And maybe the third time you do it, they say, could I be part of that team chat? Because they're enjoying the messages, they're liking them. Or at that point, you can ask them, gosh, I've sent you 3 things from the team chat. Were they useful? Not do you want to join? Were they useful? What did you like about them? Did they help you? When they validate all that to be true, then you can say, well, would you like me to add you? Right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And also when you have that conversation with them and you're asking, what drew them to the business? What would they like the business to do for them? Is this going to be a hobby or a business for them? And there's no wrong answers, no right or wrong answers, right? If we find that they say, hey, I just want to get my family on Juice Plus, that doesn't mean they're never going to do, have a serious business. That's good to keep loving on them and sending those messages. But that might not be someone that you send everything to, get them, on boards and send everything to. But if they already have people in mind and they have a first goal and they would like to get to Partner Plus, or maybe they already have people waiting and they could be Partner Plus, right away, and they have some goals, that would be the time to go over their list. And also, I do like how the boards is broken up now. The getting started section 1, that helps them actually in getting, and you can send that to them without them having to be on board. Or if they're a self-starter go-getter, you can get them on boards and direct them there. But you can send also that part 1 of getting started, and that's getting them all set up. And then part 2 is getting them connected and with their
Okay.
memory jogger and their list and their first goal,
Yeah.
and so on.
I mean, the beginning pieces are still the same, but the timing and the fact that you really want to affirm them and make sure that they are ready, that's the piece that's been missing. And then once you're really sure about that, the startup is similar that, let's put some names together. Would you like to do a launch call? Would you like to invite some people? Do you know there's a call next Thursday night, and you send them just that flyer? They haven't seen all the other 500 flyers. We're having a call in 10 days from now. It might be really great to get your family on that call with you because it's all about the products. So you're really kind of giving them, also chunking down an assignment or a possibility. And if they complete each one, they're ready. They're doing the do without being told, guess what? You're actually doing the business right now. They don't even know they're doing it if you treat it like that at the beginning. Now, obviously, if you have a go-getter that says from day one, I need to make $1,000 a month as fast as I can, tell me what I need to do, you're going to speed this up, but you're still going to really be affirming, congratulating, and celebrating.
Yes. Yeah. And that's that last piece. When they get that goal, even celebrate all along, even reaching out to that first person that they reach out to, getting their first order, opening their mouth in the grocery store, whatever they're doing, celebrate that.
Even celebrating, Sandy, one of the things you can do at the beginning, because if we can get them to love watching the videos, and you send them a video and you say, did you have a chance to watch it? And they do right away. You've got somebody that's engaging, and then you get to congratulate them. Not everybody watches it right away. I thought I would have fun working with you. I can see that, you're really interested in educating yourself, and it's something I admire in you. So finding a way to, whatever steps they're taking, obviously, we're not talking about being cheesy and saying things that aren't true, but how many times have you sent a video to somebody and they don't watch it? All the time. So what if somebody watches it right away? That's a big deal. You get to congratulate them, and it refers, their congratulations should always reflect a quality that you see in them. Somebody doesn't watch the video right away, must mean that you really do want to get educated. And I think that's a really, I admire you for that. Simple. Doesn't have to be all cheesy. So is there anything else? Because I know we're out of time here. Is there anything that we've left out, Sandy, that you want to throw in right now?
I think that's the most important things. Does anyone have any thing they want to share or questions?
Yeah, any questions?
I have a question. So when in the beginning, Eric Worre says to ask how I forget the 3 things, but hungry, coachable, and I forget the third one, right?
Yeah. Are you teachable? Do you have desire? No, I'm forgetting too.
Coachable, hungry, and
coachable. Exactly.
I forget what the third thing is, but anyhow, when someone says, "Oh, I'm an 8 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 on coachability," and I'm really hungry for this, and I'm a 10 out of 10 for hunger, and then they do nothing. How would you then go back to them and approach that? They've given you this commitment where they've said they're like 8 out of 10, 10 out of 10, but clearly they're showing that they're 1 out of 10. Like, how would you approach that?
You want to go, Sam?
Oh, go ahead, Nikki, what you were going to say.
My first thing is I want to make sure that when that person gets to that point, that you know a lot about them. You know whether they're busy. You've gone through all the initial sort of objections about why this business might not work for them or what they're looking for. And assuming that, they've said, I really can give 5 hours a week. I can do that. I am busy, but I'm really hungry. I can give 5 hours a week. I really love the product. They've watched, and again, you're not going to ask them to do things like they say they haven't done anything. Let's take Sandy. She took 4 months to sign up. She signed up because she was being Juice Plus and somebody thought they'd buy it. And she thought, well, I sold it to them. I could pay for my own product. So that was that. It took her another 4 months to actually do the business. Now, she never said during all that time she was hungry and wanted it. So you really need to make sure what's the background of them being hungry and that they want it. So I'm curious, Heidi, in that example, is it people that have watched the video and have, talked about what they're struggling with and what is difficult for them, what their concerns are in the business, what their expectations are in the business? Has all that occurred, do you think?
Yes, usually when I ask that question, and I remembered it's willing, coachable, and hungry, it's usually after the connection call or the exploration call with you. So it's usually after that fact. So you have a good snapshot of where they're feeling. And I don't actually ask that for anyone that is not showing signs of wanting to be a business builder.
Right. So, and then when you say they don't do anything, so you had the exploration call. Is there an assignment that they've had? What's happened after that where you say they've done nothing? What's not?
Usually it's the step one, the getting started, right? And having maybe doing a social media post.
Okay, so something as simple as a social media post and they don't do and they don't do it. Or maybe it's as simple as, can you put 5 names together so we can talk about how to approach them? Some of the really simple basics that you've said, they're ready to go. They say yes, you give them those things. I guess the first thing I would say is, and I would use what we talked about on the Transformation Tuesday call. I would use something called intrinsic validation. I would go back and say, and it always has to be facts that you start with. So last week when we talked, you said, you were at 8 out of 10 for hungry and you were whatever those things were, and you were really excited about getting started. And I noticed that you were gonna turn in your list to me of 10 people, and I don't have it. I can imagine, is it possible? Like, I can imagine that maybe you were too busy this week to get it done. And they go, no, that wasn't it. And then you get to say, what kept you from getting this? What happened? What happened this week? And maybe they say, it wasn't that I was too busy, but I had other priorities. And then you say, tell me more about your priorities. You talk enough about, again, what you're doing with intrinsic validation is when you start asking them questions, you're really looking for the point that they are kind of dissatisfied and unhappy and in pain with what they're doing. And at that point, you get to know whether they need more suggestions. And if you guys didn't have a chance to watch that call from Transformation Tuesday last week, I don't know if it got posted, quite honestly. I'll make sure it does. But that's where I would go. I would go into first a fact, gosh, you were going to do the list for me by this Wednesday, right? Yeah, I was. And it didn't get done, right? Right, it didn't. That's great. Can I ask you some questions around that? So, and they're always, you start with a fact. I imagine that you were really busy, or I imagine that it was really hard for you to do, or I imagine it was scary, or I imagine anything. They're going to correct your imagination. Yes, I was busy, or no, it wasn't scary, or whatever. And then you're going to explore what it was. Sandy, do you have anything to say with that?
No, I think that's super good. I like all that. There's just another similar focus is when you're having that conversation with them and you're finding out how many hours a week and just what their hunger level and all of that is, you can ask. So I know sometimes life gets in the way. And I'll know if you get discouraged or life gets in the way because you may not be returning my calls, or I text you and I may not hear something back. How would you like me to encourage you when that happens? And I love the intrinsic validation. You can never go wrong with that. Also, just letting them know that it's normal, that life's going to try and suck them, and so they won't do what they want to do, and what is their plan and how would they like you to approach when that happens.
And I think also in that introductory, that the honeymoon stage or whatever, the beginning stages, is really find out what their expectations are from you. And you get to tell them what your expectations are for them. So like one of my expectations from my people is that if I call them and they're engaged in the business, that they're going to return my call. I just expect a return call. It might even just be a text that said, I can't talk right now, but I want a communication. That's one of my expectations. And then I get to say, what are yours from me? What would you like from me? So that's so that when it does happen, you've stated, this is my expectation. And I know, Heidi, we had a conversation like this. One was personal, I think, just the other day about somebody. And then one was on the business when you said, when you got quiet, what would you like me to do? I feel like this is the time. And you asked them and they didn't respond. And they didn't respond again. And then, even though they said they wanted you to call them, they wanted you to text, and they're not returning the call, something it's the birds got the seeds, as Jim Rohn would say, or I forget all the ones that's the one I always come up with. The thorns grew up and the weeds took over, and you fixed them, at least for now. Maybe you let it go for now, and then you come back in a week or two and say, I missed talk, is there anything I can do for you? Is there something, to circle back around? Yeah. All right. We really are over our time in the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a
Thank
good
you
call,
everyone for
though.
hanging in there.
It's
All
hard
right.
to not go over with these calls. They're so rich.
Oh, good. I love that. And so just so you know, there's no more calls for my team, at least for the rest of this month. And our next call is July 2nd or 1st.
I think it's first.
It's July 1st. And we've got, I think, Guy Debeau, and it's with Alita is going to be interviewing him. And he's a wealth of information. It's going to be a great call. I am going to be in Iceland. I won't be back until July 9th, so you won't be hearing much from me. But I will be checking Voxer occasionally if the hotel has Wi-Fi and that sort of thing. Sandy.
I just want to say, be sure and get all of your husbands, any guy on the call with Guy, because he has been in this business a lot of years. Like Nikki says, it's going to be so rich, and he has so much to share that you'll want to get your guys.
Alita just said Cheryl's going to be on as well as wife, so we're going to hear from
nice.
That's great. I didn't realize that. That's great. Alita, thanks for piping in. So everybody have a great night, have a great week, and we'll see you in July.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Night, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.